afternoon and happy Saturday to everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Fantasy Debate with Sam and Tate, brought to you by Fantasy Focused and the Original Hooters. Today we're going to be covering a lot of value checks, trade questions, and all fun stuff to make sure that you guys are set up to finish out this win on the season. We're going to be covering Kenyan Drake's value, Miles Sanders' value, and the entire pass catching group for the Steelers and the Bucks, as a lot of news has hit. Now, Tate, with the Bucks kind of kicking us off here on this one, and Antonio Brown news, it draws into question all of the Bucks receivers. But your first take on Antonio Brown signing with the Bucks, let's cover that.
So my initial reaction is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are clearly pushing all their chips to the center, and I'm okay with Antonio Brown entering the fold because it's a one-year deal. If he acts up, they can do the same exact thing in Tampa Bay that they did in New England, which was just let his ass go if he decides to go ahead and pull some of the weird shit that he's pulled off the field and even on the field in the locker room and stuff. So I'm okay with it. Do I think Antonio Brown is a significant upgrade to someone like Scotty Miller or Tyler Johnson? Absolutely. We're going to see a lot of plays dialed up for Antonio Brown, but we're also going to see he hasn't played professional football in basically a full year and hasn't played a full season in 2 seasons. So it's gonna be interesting to see what kind of shape and what Antonio Brown has left in the tank. But as far as the fantasy fallout, we got Charlie Hicks jumping in the comments saying, should I trade Mike Evans with this Antonio Brown news? And I don't know if I feel like Mike Evans' role or target volume is really going to change all that much, even with Antonio Brown joining the fold. I mean, yes, Antonio Brown was basically the best wide receiver in the NFL right there with Julio Jones for an extended amount of time, but Evans has been the top preferred red zone target the entire season for Tom Brady and the Bucks. I don't think that changes now that Antonio Brown's in town. Do you?
I mean, I don't know that. I think that it does change a little bit just because, I mean, last week, obviously, Mike Evans has had a ton of success lately. He's averaged at least a touchdown a game, and you love those stats, but he had a big dud last week. And he
was playing injured though, and he was not anywhere near 100% on that ankle.
Sure, but his overall receptions just felt a little bit inconsistent. Like they've kind of gone up and down. Week 1 reception, 7, 2, 7, 5, 1. Like that's not giving me confidence. What gives me confidence is just how involved Godwin is when he is playing. Now, he's got far more consistency as far as catches go, so I'm a little bit less worried about him securing his role. I feel like I am a little bit worried about Mike Evans. We've got Gronkowski that's starting to do a little bit more, being that red zone threat. I just feel like, we know Brady to be someone to pass the ball around and to just share that workload, but I feel like adding one more mouth to feed isn't going to help Mike Evans.
And I get that Antonio Brown is a significantly bigger mouth to feed than, most when you're going to say, oh, well, O.J. Howard was still there. Well, O.J. Howard isn't anywhere near the level of talent.
And I wouldn't bring that up with O.J.
that Antonio Brown is. But, is it a little concerning? Evans, scored 6 touchdowns in the first 5 games, but, some of it's a little bit of fool's gold. I mean, the stat line against Denver is the one that's the most baffling, is 2 receptions for 2 yards and 2 touchdowns. 1 reception, 2 yards against New Orleans. Mike Evans hasn't been putting up gaudy reception totals, but he can do so. It's just going to be a little bit inconsistent, and he's still going to be a great red zone threat. But I mean, if you are in a PPR league and you're disappointed with the weekly volume that he's getting as far as like a weekly floor because of his target volume and pass catching, I mean, I guess it's okay if you want to go ahead and trade him and see what you can get. I just don't think you're going to get much for him right now because of the week that he had against Green Bay, 1 catch, 10 yards. I mean, is anybody really going to pay top dollar right now for Mike Evans? If someone does, then yeah, maybe consider biting on it.
I mean, Charlie Hicks is asking what kind of value should you look for him? Specifically, what players around him do you think you could get if you were to start shopping him around?
I mean, I'll ask you, here's another player. I mean, if you're looking for maybe like a running back in replacement, I mean, do you think like Kenyan Drake is a guy that you'd want to trade Mike Evans for?
I mean, I think I'm really hurting at running back, and I have a couple of leagues where I had to just start, warm bodies last week, which was not fun. But with Drake having a better week last week, I have a little bit more confidence with pulling him in. I feel like that could be someone that I'm looking for. It just depends on, what my needs are at that position. But I think specifically wide receivers, who do you feel like has a value that you'd rather have finishing out the rest of the season than Mike Evans?
Having to press me on Mike Evans and the Bucks, and
I know
I don't like it. I know it's kind of my job here. I understand that, but
flag behind you. That's the Tampa Bay Bucks. So that's kind of on you.
I know. But I mean, if we're talking about, I particularly, if we're talking maybe like a buy low, I still feel in a PPR format, Tyler Boyd is someone I feel very confident with his role in this Cincinnati offense. I know that AJ Green had a nice week. T. Higgins continues to see his role expand on a weekly basis. But Tyler Boyd is somebody that I feel is steady Eddie. If you're in particular looking for someone that gives you a high weekly floor that you can feel confident in on a weekly basis, I still think Tyler Boyd is that dude. And with the past couple of weeks, he really hasn't put up a banger performance. So I like his outlook as Joe Burrow continues. We mentioned this a bunch of times in the preseason that Joe Burrow was going to probably get off to a little bit of a slow start with no OTAs, lack of like actual, practice facilities being open and stuff of that nature. I still think that the best is yet to come for Joe Burrow in 2020, and Tyler Boyd's going to be a huge part of that.
Sure. I'm going to name another receiver just to get your temperature on value. Do you feel like Keenan Allen could be someone that you'd rather have going forward? He's got a great schedule coming up. He's got Jacksonville, Denver, Las Vegas, Miami, the Jets, and then you run into Buffalo, New England. But I feel like, and then Atlanta. So I think that there's a lot of potential in that game as well. I think as you're going through and looking at how that team's developing, do you have a little bit more confidence in Keenan Allen going forward?
I do, actually. In PPR, yes. Even in standard, I mean, you look at the numbers and the weekly target volume that Keenan Allen has seen really the entire season, but in particular since Justin Herbert has taken over under center. He saw 19 targets in a football game. 19. And every week that he's completed a full game with Justin Herbert under center, he has seen double-digit targets. And he's converted on those. I mean, he's had at least 7 receptions in every full game played with Justin Herbert under center. So, yeah, I mean, that's a home run. I mean, even though Allen got a little dinged up, I'm okay with it. It looks like he is good to go. He practiced fully on Friday. So if he's a 100% healthy, and Evans in particular isn't 100% right now, I would go with Allen for the rest of the season.
I feel like it's not like a sexy trade. I feel like the person that's receiving Evans might be more intrigued because of the potential there. But I think it's like a sneaky grab that you could get if you could make that trade happen. So, Charlie, I hope that helps. Guys, we're going to get to a lot of your questions as we go forward through these value checks. Kyle joining us. Thank you for tuning in, Kyle. Love having you here, as always.
Good to see you too.
It's Fragger joining us on Twitch. Really appreciate having you as well. We're doing good, hanging in there. And then Kyle kicking it off to another receiver for us with the Bucks. I saw a trade go through in one of my leagues involving Chris Godwin. I think that he threw in the trade here. Godwin, Tyler Higbee, and Jerick McKinnon for Michael Thomas and Austin Hooper. Didn't Austin Hooper just have an appendectomy, or is that just?
That's a good question.
I think that he just had like a kind of minor, kind of big surgery. So I don't know that if this is dynasty, I guess I would rather have the Thomas Hooper side and just chalk up the loss for the year. But
he did have an appendectomy. Yeah. And speaking from someone who had an appendectomy once upon a time and partially ruptured, by the way, and your boy could have gotten gangrene and you'd see a much thinner Tate to this day if it would have gotten much worse for your boy here. But, I'm personally not going to trade away Godwin and Tyler Higbee for an injured Michael Thomas and an injured Austin Hooper. I personally wouldn't do it, Kyle. If you said you saw that in a trade in your league, whoever got the Godwin, Tyler Higbee, Jerick McKinnon side, I don't think it's a landslide win, but at least you have Godwin and Higbee likely to play this week.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, to me, I always want to have people that are starting. I want to have warm bodies on the field. I don't like having to wait for people. I think the only person I would trade for and don't mind waiting for would probably be Christian McCaffrey, but I know I would have to sell the farm to absolutely grab him in any league going forward.
Something's not right now with Michael Thomas. Like that whole situation there in New Orleans.
It really doesn't. And, him being dinged up again and being out again, there's something that's off, where there's smoke, there's fire. And I think that there's a lot of smoke happening over there. It's Fragger wants to know with Hooper out, he's out for me. Should I pick up Harrison Bryant or David Njoku, or can I start Darren Fells? Ooh.
I don't think there's anything wrong with starting Darren Fells, believe it or not. Fells, I mean, yes, his reception totals haven't been super high. I mean, I think he had, 4 or 5 receptions this past week. I'm just going off the top of my head, so somebody fact check me there. But I think Fells has scored a touchdown in 3 out of the last 4 weeks.
I'll check that for you right now.
Please do. Fact check me.
I've got you.
Going off the top of my dome here. I'm actually good with going with Fells rather than trying to play the guessing game between Bryant and Njoku.
I agree. And so Fells did score a touchdown each last 2 weeks, and he averaged, bad at math. He had 2 receptions against the Jags, and then last week he had 6 against the Titans, which is good. I mean, they performed that well against the Titans. I'm encouraged by that. He's got Green Bay this week, which I think he could still see some volume there. Watson's someone that's always going to get his open guy the ball. So I feel like, I always have confidence in Deshaun Watson. He's going to make the play happen.
He's been playing exponentially better ever since they decided to go and get rid of Bill O'Brien, which is what they should have done last offseason. But, what's done is done. I mean, looking forward, it looks like this team morale, they've been a completely different football team ever since Bill O'Brien is no longer the leading man. So if they just continue to let Deshaun Watson do his thing offensively, then this offense is going to produce.
Yep, I see that too. It's Frager wants to know, staying on the subject with the Bucks, I picked up AB and I have Mike Evans. Should I trade him for Will Fuller? That's intriguing. Which would you rather?
Will Fuller or Mike Evans for the rest of the year?
Yeah, that's a really good one.
It is. And in particular, Will Fuller had that one game where he just completely shit the bed against the Baltimore Ravens. Literally did not catch a pass. And, speaking of shitting the bed, my dog just got surgery, Sadie, and she wasn't feeling very good. So this morning, we woke up and Sadie sleeps in the bed with us. Sadie literally shit the bed. We had to clean the sheets, pull everything off. Poor Sadie, not feeling good. Hope everybody shows a little bit of love and thoughts.
Poor Sadie.
Sadie rules. She's got a little cone around her head and everything.
Oh no, cone of shame.
Had a cyst removed on her leg, so she can't. She's all kinds of messed up right now. But I digress. Will Fuller has caught 4 or more passes in every single game this season outside of against Baltimore. If you want the floor, which sounds weird for Will Fuller, who has always been like a boom or bust type guy, I'd be okay with it. But I just don't know. Will Fuller isn't that's not enough to me. I think it's a lateral move.
But at this point in the season, I think you're kind of banking on just a little bit of upside. And with Fuller getting at least a touchdown in the last 4 weeks, and I feel like his average of receptions is higher than Evans. I think he has more volume potential with Watson under center and versus Evans with Brady, who's going to continue to pass it around. And when we see Antonio Brown walk in week 9 and able to play, it's just a few less targets he's going to be seeing. So I'd actually think I'd rather have Will Fuller rest of the season than Mike Evans.
Okay, so I get where you're coming from. I understand the argument because the proof is in the numbers as far as weekly floor and stuff of that nature. Again, Evans has been fantastic as far as a red zone option, and I think he continues to be. But is there some potential concern with his target volume? But you can also make the argument that Antonio Brown and Chris Godwin on the field open things up more for Mike Evans. You're just going to see single coverage, and if you get a healthy Mike Evans, if that ankle continues to get better, I think that you're still going to see the red zone volume and the red zone targets to go with probably better gaudy numbers as far as efficiency goes on the outside.
All right, I'm going to look this up because I'm pretty sure there's a stat from last year where I don't think there were more than 2 weeks where both Mike Evans and Chris Godwin saw equal fantasy value that you'd want to be starting both of them at all times. I feel like they both do eat into each other's targets. So if you want to answer the next question that we've got up here, Kyle's saying he hopes Tate feels better, which I really appreciate.
Thank you, Kyle. I really appreciate that, man.
I'm going to pull that stat up because I think it's too good to not bring up. I just don't feel like I don't think there's enough to go around.
Stat diving me. I don't want. That's going to hurt my soul. If you're trying to,
right. We'll move on. You know what?
It hurt.
We're beating a dead horse.
Find the stat. I'm just kidding around.
We're beating a dead horse with the Bucks. We can get on to the two other teams because there's more backfields and there's more receivers that I do want to cover today before we get into everyone else's trade questions. Guys, please, if you have any trade questions, value questions, please let us know. The entire Fantasy Focus crew will be here with you tomorrow morning at 7 a.m. Pacific, 10 a.m. Eastern to answer all of your start-sit questions. So we're all here to answer all your questions to get through this next week. But let's move on to the Pittsburgh Steelers, who just get back Deontay Johnson. Very excited. I'm excited to have more receivers for what I think is going to be a very tough game against the Titans. I'm mostly nervous about Derrick Henry pummeling my team, but my defense is also amazing. So moving on, how do you feel like getting Deontay Johnson back is going to affect the pass catchers for Pittsburgh?
Well, in particular, Chase Claypool. Because we've seen, a mini breakout of Chase Claypool over the past couple of weeks without.
I don't know how many it is. It's 4 touchdowns.
You're right. And he's not a mini dude, like 6'4", 227, chiseled. No, I mean, he's an absolute beast. He's like a mini DK Metcalf. I'm going to keep banging that drum and making that comparison because that's exactly what he reminds me of. And we've seen, like, even to start the season, even when Deontay Johnson was seeing a ton of targets and was actually leading the NFL in targets, I believe it was, through the first 3 weeks of the NFL season. I mean, Claypool was still making splash plays. I mean, this dude hasn't had a game yet where he hasn't averaged 15 or more yards per reception. I mean, he is a quintessential big play threat that has carved out a significant role in this Pittsburgh passing attack. And back me up on this. I mean, you watch every snap of Pittsburgh football. You eat, live, and breathe it. So I know you're probably loving what you're seeing from Chase Claypool. But, in particular with Deontay Johnson, I just think that Deontay Johnson is probably the best route runner of all these options there in Pittsburgh with Claypool, Juju, and Deontay. I just love what I saw from a healthy Deontay. It's easy to discredit him right now because he's had 2 games so far this season where he got like 1 touch and then got knocked out of the game. Durability is certainly an issue, but, the games that Deontay had a significantly bigger role, Claypool didn't have quite the numbers that he has. So I'm tempering my expectations. If someone's willing to buy into the hype with Claypool right now, I think that he's not a bad guy to try to shop because I just don't know if he can keep up at this type of rate. But boy, has he been impressive with so far through his rookie season.
He's been really impressive, and I do feel like he's still going to have value because even with the games that you're talking about at the beginning of the season, particularly the Denver game, Deontay Johnson had 19.2 fantasy points. I think that I'm looking at half-point PPR, so it might be more than that. But he had 8 receptions in that game, 92 yards and a touchdown, 13 targets. In that same game, Chase Claypool had only 3 targets. However, he did have 3 receptions, 88 yards, and a touchdown, still got you a big day as well. So I feel like with this offense, it's not going to be as high of volume as previous years maybe because Ben doesn't have to throw it so much. This is not a Jameis Winston style offense where you're just going to continue to sling it. Ben will throw it, but it's just far more efficient. So I do feel like there is a lot of efficiency with these targets that goes around. So I don't think that you need to have Chase Claypool get 10 targets a game to have him be effective. He's going to be someone that can have that one big play and you're still going to see fantasy value out of him. So I don't think that his value disappears. I am still worried a little bit about Juju Smith-Schuster.
Yeah, what in the world's going on with Juju?
I think it's just that everyone else is just being so successful and getting so open and everyone's so used to double teaming and guarding Juju, that, you've got almost this Bugs Bunny-like element of cartoon receivers jumping back and forth across the field, and Ben's able to open it up and air it out to everyone else. So I think that Juju is just drawing so much coverage this year. He just cannot seem to get open, make that move, make that play. And these other guys are just kind of showing up. But as he said on Twitter, he's okay with it.
I wanted to ask you real quick, and I didn't mean to interrupt, but I was going to ask you, do you see some similarities potentially between the pass catchers in Tampa Bay and Pittsburgh? I mean, Antonio Brown is literally joining the fold. And then you have, I think, what looks like the, not the store name. Yeah, the store name brand of Antonio Brown, which is Deonte Johnson, there in Pittsburgh. Then you got Chase Claypool, who kind of represents that of Mike Evans, a big vertical threat that can just, beat you downfield and has an unhittable fastball. And the fact that he is just bigger, stronger, faster than a lot of people that are trying to cover him. And then you got Chris Godwin, who is kind of this tweener of a wide receiver 1, wide receiver 2, kind of similar to Juju Smith-Schuster, who can put up these mad bonkers type numbers, but also can disappear at times. And I'm not criticizing Chris Godwin. I absolutely love him. And same thing with Juju. But do you see some similarities between these two groups of pass catchers?
I guess if you frame it that way, I can see them being similar, but I don't like it.
I'm just saying. I
know.
I see some similarities.
I get it. And I think that the difference, the Evans Chase Claypool comparison, I get it. I mean, Claypool has 4 touchdowns for the season so far. Evans has 6. Claypool has 17 receptions to Evans 23. But overall yards, Claypool has everyone beat with 335, and it's by a lot. So I don't know. I just feel like, I don't know if just the schemes are just lining up better for Claypool versus Evans in particular, because the touchdowns that Evans got were short yardage touchdowns, and Claypool's getting to air it out, getting far more yards. I'd just rather have that volume of yards versus the 2 yards and a touchdown. I'd rather have the 50 yards with a touchdown, but it's only, if that's the only play, I'm okay with that. But I just like to have that yard volume. Depending on your league too, and the way the scoring goes, call me nitpicking here. And I think that's what we're doing, but that's okay. I just want more yards.
I feel you. I was just curious, because we're talking about our, my beloved Bucks, your beloved Steelers.
I know. You see how we both get so heated when we're talking about our teams? It's like we're really big fans or something.
Yeah, it's kind of like we pay attention and like watch every snap and then go back and watch the game again. And I do anyway. And I try to make film studies and all that. Anyway, moving on.
Moving on. Let's talk about a couple other players. And let's actually get to this question from Charlie Hicks, because I like it a lot. Trade Todd Gurley and Robbie Anderson for Lev Bell. Who wins this trade?
Oh, I'm going with the Todd Gurley and Robbie Anderson side. Robbie Anderson alone has been a very good PPR option this year. And Todd Gurley, say what you will. I understand he's a little bit more volatile in PPR formats because he just doesn't really have a huge involvement in the passing game. But Todd Gurley's still been getting 15-plus touches every single week. And say what you will about that. Volume is volume, and it still gets you points. Lev Bell, I think he's got plenty left in the tank, personally. I know you may not have the same opinion about Lev Bell, but I still think he has plenty left in the tank. And his running style particularly is going to fit very well with the Kansas City Chiefs. His patient, pick your spots. He can still knife in and out. And you're going to be running into 6- and 7-man fronts there in Kansas City. Even if Bell only sees like 10 touches a game, I still think he's going to be very effective and efficient. And I think he immediately sees goal line work for the Kansas City Chiefs. But that being said, give me Gurley and Anderson all day.
Yeah, I think I'm definitely on the gimme Anderson and Gurley side of it as well. I do think that Bell is going to see, a good floor, but I'm still just a bit hesitant on how much he's going to see. This is going to be our first week seeing him, correct?
Yes, that is correct. It's going to be interesting to see what type of role he carves out, how much of the playbook he has absorbed at this point, what places and situations that Eric Bieniemy and Andy Reid want to really use Lev Bell in. We'll find out some answers to those questions this week. Speaking of questions, it's Fragger coming in also on Twitch. What do you guys think about this? I put Zeke and Rojo at running back spots and Keenan Allen at the flex and sitting Mike Davis because the Saints run defense is not that bad. Give me your thoughts on that. I mean, Rojo potentially having Leonard Fournette come back this week, but he is playing the Las Vegas Raiders. What are your thoughts? Do you like Rojo or Mike Davis?
I mean,
3 straight 100-yard games, by the way.
Yeah. I don't know. Mike Davis has been so good. It's hard for me to imagine sitting him. And then Dallas is just, I mean, I know that Zeke is still going to see a floor there, but what is happening with Dallas? I feel like it is just absolutely imploding over there.
Yeah, I mean, speaking of shitting the bed, I'm going to call it the Sadie special there in Dallas this past Monday Night Football. I mean, it was a king-size bed worth of shit that everybody put up, and Zeke included.
Yeah, it was not good and did not bring you a lot of confidence. They're going against Washington. That does have a solid defense this week. I don't know. They've got the Eagles next and then Pittsburgh, which is a solid run defense as well. Like, I don't know that I have tons of confidence in Zeke even. So
I'm going to roll with Zeke. I got to draw the line somewhere. I mean, he's still a stud, and I think he's actually been playing with a chip on his shoulder. Like, my bad about putting us in a bad situation with fumbles on consecutive drives. Like, I'm not throwing in the towel on Zeke quite yet. Mike Davis has been really good though, but so is Rojo. It's a tough decision you have right here on your hands. I would still start Keenan Allen. You're doing the right thing. Given the situation, I would probably go with Mike Davis. No, I can't say that. Rojo's been too good. I think you're doing the right thing. It's a tough sit. Good problem to have.
It is a good problem to have for sure, but I don't know. I think I'd rather have Mike Davis. I'm looking at the numbers now. I just want to make sure I get you the most accurate answer I possibly can.
And Rojo, I get it. I mean, if Fournette's active, could it dip into his touches a little bit? Probably, possibly. But, I mean, I'm going with the hot hand. Rojo's looked really good.
Yeah, and it is the most favorable matchup. I think that you're safe there. Yeah, go with Rojo. You can bench Mike Davis this week. And mostly because I do love starting Keenan Allen at flex this week a lot. I think that's going to be a good pick for you there. Hopefully that was helpful.
Did have one other question too. He picked up Antonio Brown and he has Mike Evans. Should he trade?
We already got this one.
Oh, we did? Okay, my apologies.
Yeah.
Boy, I'm just, I'm just this not very good at reading the prompter.
I was going through to pick the Bucks questions at the beginning because we were covering the Bucks so much. That's why I was nitpicking.
You're good. You're good.
There was a thought process. I do promise you that. But let's get to this one from user. I like this question as well. Do you expect Aaron Jones to play? And if not, is Giovanni Bernard or McKinnon a better play? I do expect Aaron Jones to play, not just because I am a big Aaron Jones fan and truther and all the things. I love Aaron Jones. If I could get a shirt that just said I love Aaron Jones, I would. If you guys know of anyone that's selling a shirt that says I love Aaron Jones, I would like to buy it. But from the injury report, it was listed as a minor calf issue. I think if there was more concern, we would have heard more about it, but I think that he'll be fine. So I'm not too worried about that. But I do like Giovanni Bernard a lot this week with Mixon out. What do you think?
Do I expect Aaron Jones to play? I feel like there's maybe some part of that organization that would love to actually just play it safe, quote unquote, to sit Aaron Jones so they can get a full look at AJ Dillon, like the guy that they drafted in the second round. The reason
why would you breathe that into existence for me right now?
Well, I hold on. I relax. I'm just trying to say that
you said I love him.
I love Aaron Jones. I do. Aaron Jones is the man, and I feel foolish because I should have drafted Aaron Jones instead of some of the other running backs, Kenyan Drake.
Yeah, remember how much you were on that train? I thought that you were the conductor of the Kenyan Drake hype train.
It was my most popular video this offseason, but I don't know what happened. Anyway, look, we were all a little bit nervous about AJ Dillon. Right? They drafted him in the second round. Aaron Jones on a contract year at the end of his rookie deal. Writing on the wall, read between the lines, maybe. But it hasn't come into fruition yet because Aaron Jones has by far been the best back out of that collection of runners with Jamal Williams and A.J. Dillon barely involved. So, but right now would be a perfect opportunity for them to go ahead and just rest Aaron Jones and get a look at A.J. Dillon. So if that were the case, you're looking at Giovanni Bernard and Jerick McKinnon. And are we 100% certain that Gio Bernard is the bell cow back this week? They may get a look at Travion Williams there in Cincinnati.
I mean, I think that they've liked Bernard a lot in the past as well. I feel like he's kind of cemented himself in that backfield as just being a reliable guy they've gone to. And against the Browns this week, I feel like he's going to be a better play than McKinnon anyways, because McKinnon's against the Patriots this week, and I don't like that matchup at all.
Well, McKinnon also, keep in mind, Raheem Mostert didn't play in the second half.
He's out.
Week on Sunday Night Football. He has been ruled out for this week. Mm-hmm. So when we're taking a look at McKinnon, they gave JaMychal Hasty, the rookie out of Baylor, 9 carries in the second half last week. Significantly out-touching Jerick McKinnon. So if given these two options, I would probably still lean McKinnon because I think it'll be somewhere around a 50-50 split between him and Hasty. I just don't know if I see Giovanni Bernard. I think it's going to be like we're going to see more of Travion Williams than people think.
See, and I'm going to stay on the other side of the table. I think you're going to see a lot more out of Bernard this week than you will McKinnon. We could make a bet.
You want to make a bet?
Yeah. I say that Giovanni Bernard has.
What's the wager? I think you still owe me a hat.
Okay,
Drew Brees is still playing football last time I checked.
Is
someone thought he was going to retire.
Is he playing?
That's rude. He's playing. He just
not very well. Not very well. So, okay. All right. Well, let's renew that hat bet and we'll level it up. So we'll do a hat and we'll do a shirt.
Okay, so are we betting with Bernard and McKinnon?
Bernard and McKinnon. I say that Giovanni Bernard has more fantasy points this week than Jerick McKinnon.
In a PPR, I'm going with McKinnon. All right, let's do it.
Are we doing this PPR? Are we doing this PPR or standard?
Let's do a PPR. Both of these players can catch passes.
Okay.
I don't think there's any disadvantage either way. So what's the bet again? It's a hat and a shirt?
Hat and a shirt for your team.
Maybe you can get the shirt for the baby upcoming. She needs
okay. Wait. I like this. So if I win, then I get a hat.
For myself, though.
I know. If I win, I get a hat, and you have to buy the baby a Steelers t-shirt.
Oh,
that's a good one.
Shit. Let's do it. Let's go, McKinnon. Let's go.
Let's go. Okay, so you've got McKinnon, I've got Bernard and PPR. This is going to be fun. I can't wait to talk to the guys tomorrow about who they think is going to win this.
Yo, sound off in the comments. Let us know who you think. Is it going to be Bernard or McKinnon who scores higher PPR points? Who's going to win this bet? Is it Baby Tate or is Baby Tate going to be rocking Steelers gear, unfortunately?
I think that Baby Tate's going to be loving the black and yellow. Personally, that's what I think. All right, we got another question. I love how these questions we're getting from trades. So let's get to a couple more of these, and then we'll talk a bit more about Miles Sanders and Boston Scott, and we'll cover Kenyan Drake as well before we sign off later today. Blue Crew has one for us. PPR leaning strongly on starting Claypool and Higgins, sitting out Cooper Kupp. Just really concerned on that Bears secondary. Then versus the Rams this week, even with Woods maybe not playing, still worried. Wait a minute. Robert Woods might not play this week?
Correct.
What?
Yeah, he popped up on the injury report with, I think, a groin injury.
Damn it. Damn the groins. They always get hurt. I don't know why. Anyways, so let's talk a little bit about this sitting out Kupp this week. I do think that are you fading Cooper Kupp this week, even with Woods maybe being out?
Here's the frustrating thing about Cooper Kupp is that if you watch the Rams game last week, there was so much meat left on the bone. If the throws were just there and Kupp was able to handle those in. Sorry, Kelly. Thank you, dear. She's showing me paintings and stuff of that nature. No, I don't want to show them on that. We're doing a football live show, baby. I love you. Anyway, but we are talking about Cooper Kupp. Sorry about this. Kupp could have had a much better week. I understand wanting to fade him, though, for the two options that you have with Claypool and Higgins. Like, they have both of these rookies have seen their roles continue to expand in the past couple, like 2-3 weeks. Higgins in particular, by the way, Higgins has been really, really involved. I think he's seen at least 6 targets the last 4 weeks. That's high.
It's at least 7. He's had since week 2, he's had 6 targets, 9 targets, 7, 8, and 8. So he has seen a lot of targets, and it's been very consistent.
Very. And obviously we knew how talented this pass catching group of rookies was, and we're starting to see that come to fruition. But in particular, I mean, I actually am going to go with the 2 rookies. I can't believe I'm saying this because Kupp is tough to sit because I truly think that he's a damn good player. But right now, for some reason, he's just not producing what I hoped for heading into this year. And the matchup against the Chicago Bears doesn't exactly give me the feel goods. So
no, I can actually see that.
I'll fade Kupp in this scenario.
Yeah, I agree. And I can actually see a better day for Tyler Higbee this week, given that scenario. Just a little bit more dink and dunk for Goff there. But yeah, I don't hate this. I know it feels weird because you drafted Cooper Kupp where you drafted him, and you probably just had dart throws on Claypool and Higgins at the end of your draft, but you got to go with where the volume is, to win week to week. And I think that the volume is just higher with those 2 going forward. Just, at least for this week, we can reassess next week.
Claypool's a little tricky though with Deontay Johnson coming back.
It is, but I mean, I think that this is going to be a really interesting matchup just to see how well that shakes out. And I think we're going to still see a big play from Chase Claypool. We're going to see Deontay Johnson get a lot of targets, a lot of receptions, and maybe we can see Juju finally get into the end zone. I think it's going to get spread around a lot because, Tennessee can be exploited, and they are very vulnerable against receivers. And we got a lot of good ones there with the Steelers. So
yeah, you do. Stop bragging.
I like my team. Yay, we're good at football. We're good. It's Prager. Jameson Crowder just got upgraded from questionable to doubtful. That is good to see.
Not for Sam Darnold.
Sam Darnold. Under siege saying target for a trade. And I think he's talking about Bernard here. I had to search for that one. I think it depends on what you need at running back, but if Mixon is out and this week you really need someone that's serviceable, I think that Bernard is start this week. Again, I think that we're all just a little bit depleted at running back. I don't know how you're doing in all your leagues there, Tate. Are you depleted?
Right. I'm above 500 except one, which I'm like the 4th highest scorer. Just a little bit of bad luck with matchups.
Gotcha. And then we've got Dried Ocean saying, y'all think this Bills-Jets game will be happening?
I hope so. I mean, with COVID, you just hope. I mean, I think that the NFL...
Who has it this time with those teams? Because I heard about the different players for the Raiders, and that game is in question now as well. But if anything, it could just get pushed to Monday or Tuesday.
Well, the problem is I think that all these games are going to begin to happen because really the NFL is running it. They really never really had much wiggle room to begin with. I mean,
they didn't have a plan to begin with.
Each team has a bye week, but I mean, you have one bye week and not all of them can match up when it comes to schedules and stuff of that nature. Like, I mean, the NFL I thought was a little stubborn when it came to this shit. And I think that they're going to continue to stay stubborn. I mean, as long as something crazy doesn't happen when it comes to the Bills and Jets, they could just push it back. I tried to look it up real quick, and it said Bills, Jets, COVID, Google search, places Dawson Knox and others on the IR list ahead of week 7. So, I mean, I hope the game happens. I'm going to move forward as if it is happening. Because really the NFL doesn't have a ton of wiggle room as far as their schedule goes to get all these games in.
Yeah, I'm sure that given the updates that we've been receiving from the league and based on how much they're testing every day. So we just have to wait until that wave of tests comes in today to see if that question mark becomes a bigger question mark. And then we'll know more tomorrow morning. But again, if you're in a pickle and you need to have someone serviceable to start, join us tomorrow morning for more start sit questions. That's all we'll be covering. Is start sit questions tomorrow morning, 7 a.m. Pacific and 10 a.m. Eastern. always have to. It's really hard for me to think Eastern time, guys. I'm
It's
still
math.
working on it.
It's just +3.
Yeah, math is hard for some people. Just saying. Don't judge me. I'm just saying math is hard. TS has one for us saying Justin Jackson or McKinnon for running back 2. Do you like Brandon Cooks or Deontay Johnson for flex in PPR? I'm very hesitant on McKinnon. I think I'd lean a little bit heavier on Justin Jackson, but isn't he a bit dinged up?
Well, as of right now, it does say that he's listed as questionable with a knee issue, but he did practice fully on Friday. So
that's encouraging. It's trending
Jackson,
the right direction.
You can trust Jackson that he's going to be available. And against that Jacksonville defense that has, in a couple occasions, gotten beat up on the ground this season, and not to mention 15 carries in Week 5 for Justin Jackson against the New Orleans Saints, and also was heavily involved in the passing game, 5 catches for 23 yards. I'd probably go with Jackson over McKinnon. And then when you're going with Cooks or Deontay Johnson, I want to go with Deontay. I just love myself some Deontay Johnson. I really think this kid is a star in the making. But gosh, he's got some durability issues, right?
He does. And I think on the other side, Brandon Cooks has looked really good these last 2 weeks. Really, really good. I mean, he's had a touchdown in each of the last 2 games. He had 12 targets in Week 5, 9 targets in Week 6, which you love. I think that his receptions just took a huge step up after the Bill O'Brien era has ceased to exist there for Houston. I feel like they're kind of riding a high against the Packers.
They are riding a high against the Packers, but I do want to flip the other side of the coin. When you're looking at Deontay Johnson, they got tore up by Stephon Diggs. And I see a lot of similarities in the game between, the skill set between Deontay Johnson and Stephon Diggs. Could I see Diggs tearing up this secondary? I could. Right now, if you're wanting to go with a safer route, I'd probably go with Brandon Cooks. But upside, I'd actually go with Deontay Johnson. So it just depends on how you want to play it.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that I'm leaning Justin Jackson as well. And I'm leaning more Brandon Cooks on that side as well. So hopefully that was helpful to us. We tend to, we overthink because we care. Because we care.
I want to get it right. I want to get it right.
I know. I want to get it right. I hate it when I get it wrong, except for tomorrow when I get it right. I get about Bernard. Sam Joshi said, I got offered Michael Thomas and Swift for Antonio Brown and Justin Jefferson.
We saw DeAndre Swift have his best game as a Detroit Lion, and I love this kid out of the University of Georgia. I had him as the number 1 dynasty running back for rookies heading into this year. And oh, damn it. We don't know what to expect from Antonio Brown, right?
We don't. It's such a question mark, but we've got another week with Michael Thomas out. So I'm kind of looking at this as you're not going to get these players, but I love how Justin Jefferson's been playing.
It's going to take another player. I'd rather just this question. I'd rather have Michael Thomas and DeAndre Swift how it is if you are, and you got offered it. So I would probably take it, man. For Antonio Brown and Justin Jefferson, I would take it. It's worth the roll. It's worth the roll of the dice.
I don't know. Justin Jefferson's just been so consistent. It's really hard for me to pass him away.
I get it. I totally get it. I get it. I understand. Antonio Brown, you picked him up. He hasn't done anything for you. There's no guarantee he's going to do anything this season. He's a nice throw into this offer.
Yeah.
I'm taking Michael Thomas and I'm taking DeAndre Swift, who I think will see his role continue to expand if Matt Patricia wants to keep his job.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess I'm okay with it.
This question makes me want to drink, though.
Yeah, I know. It makes me want to drink, too, but I've only got coffee in front of me. Kyle Center is saying baby shirt, but not a baby bet.
Not a baby bet. No, we ain't betting the baby. Baby's not up for
not for betting.
Not part of the negotiation. She's a keeper.
Blue Crew and Under Siege are both with me on the Bernard side of it. Thanks, guys. I really appreciate that.
Yeah. Whatever.
And user appreciates that his question was so controversial. You know what? We just like to overthink things and get stuff right for you guys. So, what are you going to
It's all
okay.
right. You know, the question was controversial, and we found a way to put the hat back into play that Sam's owed me for months now. So thanks.
My goodness. Anyways, Kyle saying, Bernard, because I am the biggest hasty truther I know. Good for you, Kyle. Love it. Inceptivus1, it has another trade question for us. Trade Andrews for Waller.
You're inceptioning my brain because this is a tricky one. I'm gonna go with Waller. I mean, Lamar Jackson, I love him, and I've loved what I've seen, and he's certainly exceeded all my expectations since he got drafted into the NFL. But his accuracy feels like it's been a little bit more erratic.
Okay.
His decision-making in the passing game feels like it's been a little bit more erratic than it was from 2019. And Darren Waller, that dude is steady Eddie. Top passing option in the Las Vegas Raiders offense. And John Gruden dials him up on a weekly basis. I actually feel more confident on a weekly basis with Waller.
I agree. I feel like, when you're just looking at the stats just for the year alone, Waller's winning every category except for touchdowns just because he is such a red zone threat there with Baltimore. But you are getting way more receptions, you're getting more yards, and you're getting more targets. And I just think that based on that floor of targets, I have to lean towards the Waller side of it. Great question, though. I think that is right. Splitting hairs on two right answers. But I'm leaning towards Waller. It's weird, but I am. Kyle Center wants to know half point PPR, half point per first down. That's interesting. Start one flex. Chase Edmonds or any of these receivers. Cole Beasley, Mecole Hardman, or Marquez Valdez-Scantling.
The half a point per first down has me a little bit wanting to go with Cole Beasley. Beasley is the slot option. They like to dial him up on third down. Josh Allen has cooled off after a fast start. Oh, man, this isn't pretty either way. But, I'm actually going to go with Cole Beasley.
All right. Yeah, I can see that. Just the first down thing makes it interesting because he's been very consistent for Josh Allen in that way. I do like Mecole Hardman as well, though. I think that, man.
What did Mecole Hardman do last game?
I'm pulling it up because I don't have it off the top of my head.
I'm looking for it. I can't find it. I think it's a goose egg.
You think it's a goose egg? Okay, yeah. Oh, yeah, he didn't do shit last week against the Bills. But it's the Broncos. I feel like the Broncos are more.
There was no Sammy Watkins last week either.
Yeah.
We saw more catches from Demarcus Robinson. Mecole is incredibly volatile. If you want to roll the dice, Kyle, Mecole's okay. But if you're just looking for, if you're in a pinch where you're trying to ask between these options, I think you're looking for somebody that can just give you some sort of contribution. I think that's Cole Beasley.
Yeah. Cole Beasley is going to be your safest bet there. Kyle Center is saying that Dawson Knox has tested positive for COVID. Yeah.
Look at it. We have so much backup in the comments. I'm like,
I know. I appreciate
don't know what's
it.
going on with this game, and folks jumping in. You guys rule.
Yeah, loving it. The whole tight end team room was placed on the COVID list because of the being in proximity rule. That sucks.
It's not good.
It's not good. Of things that are good, it's not that. Kyle Center saying so far Tyler Kroft is playing because he wasn't at the facility on Friday. Well, way to dodge a bullet there, Tyler. But Charlie Hicks has another one for us. Kamara, Bell, Robinson, Lindsey, McKinnon. Should I look to trade any of these running backs?
Maybe Lindsey. I would say Lindsey's probably your best bet to try to trade right now. Melvin Gordon could face some sort of discipline from the league for
even though his strep throat is cleared up.
Well, not the strep throat, the DUI. So
yeah, well, that's what they were saying on air everywhere. They're like, "Oh, he has strep throat. That's why he's out." It's like that's not why he's out. He just got the DUI. Everyone's mad at him.
mad at him, and there's also potential, league discipline on the horizon. So they're probably trying to get, Phil Linz back up to speed. So that being said, Lindsey's probably the guy that I'm wanting to try to sell high if he has a great week.
I think you could sell Lindsey high of these. I would still hang on to Kamara and Bell and Robinson for sure. So Lindsey's probably going to be the one that you get the most value out of. Love that. Richard Valentine wants to know standard flex. Latavius Murray, Terry McLaurin, Mike Williams need one.
I was going to say Terry McLaurin. How it's actually spelled in there. McLaurin. Standard flex. Need one. Ooh. Mike Williams balled out last time we saw him with Justin Herbert. But there was also no Keenan Allen for that game, so it's probably just a tease. Terry McLaurin against the Cowboys. I mean, that secondary sucks.
That secondary has been awful. I'm going to agree and go McLaurin as well. And he also wants to know, will Giovanni Bernard score at least one touchdown? I think so.
No.
At least one.
Definitely
We're not going to add to the bet, but I'm going to say I think he scores at least one.
I think you've lost your mind.
I don't think I've lost it. I think I think I know where it is. And then he wants to also know your thoughts on Robert Tonyan rest of season. After this, we'll get back to our value check and we'll talk Miles Sanders. But thoughts on Robert Tonyan rest of season?
Well, I mean, when we're talking about Robert Tonyan, I know that he was kind of he suffered an ankle injury in that travesty of a loss to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. But even in that sense, he caught 3 passes during that football game. In a game where Aaron Rodgers really struggled. I think you got to consider Robert Tonyan probably like a top 10 option at tight end for the rest of the year. I'm okay starting him. Unless you have a stud at the position, then you're probably starting Robert Tonyan if he's on your roster. At the very worst, he is a streaming option at tight end every single week.
I agree. And I feel like, yes, we got to see more about this injury issue with his ankle. I think maybe he had an MRI on it. So hopefully we hear more on that situation. So barring that injury, I feel like he is a top 10 play the rest of the season. And he says, thanks, guys. You're the best. We appreciate you.
Absolutely.
Cheers to that. Cheers to my coffee. By the way, I don't know if you notice how awesome my mug is, but it's got skulls on it.
That's a good looking mug.
I painted it myself.
It looks like you're setting up the Monday Night Football where the 2 helmets clash with the 2 skulls.
Oh, yeah, kind of.
Rotate. Yep. They're facing each other. I caught that.
And there's a spider in the middle.
Oh, yeah. Spiders. I hate spiders.
Yep. Anyways, I'm weird. Moving on. Let's talk a little bit about Miles Sanders' value going forward rest of the season. I mean, the Eagles did eke out a win there, which is good. Like, that's a positive.
Oh my God. Go ahead. Please continue. It's fine.
But Miles Sanders is out this week. How do you feel about him going forward, barring this knee issue? If it's not as bad as everyone thinks that it is, it's just a little bit of a ding, a little bit of a twist there. Rest of the season, are you okay? Because I feel like Boston Scott looked really good.
He looked good, but I mean, he didn't look that good on the ground to where he's going to steal a ton of looks away from Miles Sanders. I don't know why I feel this way, but it feels as if Miles Sanders has the most underwhelming, top 20 PPR start that I remember. I don't know why, because, of the 5 games that he has started, he's rushed for at least 80 or more yards. He's got 3 touchdowns in five games played. He's looked good. And he only played 41% of the snaps against Baltimore. So, and he only had 9 carries and rushed for 118 yards against that defense. Now, granted, he's had some big plays that have fluffed up those numbers. And he didn't play this past week. But, I mean, let's put it this way. He's still going to be playing in one of the worst divisions in all of football. His schedule for the rest of the season looks pretty favorable. So in particular, I'm like, I want to either acquire Miles Sanders or I'm holding him. I'm not selling him low, considering that he's actually been pretty explosive, in what has been a weird year for the Philadelphia Eagles.
It has been a weird year, but I feel like Sanders has been sloppy this year. He had really bad fumble. He's just had some plays that seemed easy that should have gone his way, and they just didn't. And I feel like he just needs to clean it up. Like it just
dropped a touchdown in one game. I know.
It's been so sloppy. So for me, I'm selling Sanders if I have him to someone who maybe just has a little bit more faith in him going forward than I do. But I'm selling him if I can. Butterfingers. I don't like it.
But what are you okay? So what are you getting in return though for Miles Sanders? Like, I'll ask you, would you, if somebody is a huge Miles Sanders believer,
mm-hmm.
and they offer you Kenyan Drake, would you rather have Kenyan Drake or Miles Sanders the rest of the year?
I think I would rather have Kenyan Drake. He's trending the right direction, looking better and better. I'd rather have Drake than
anybody
Sanders.
looks good against the Dallas Cowboys right now. Like,
sure, but they've got the Seahawks next, and then they've got a bye. They've got Miami. Buffalo's the tough one, but I feel like there's some good games in here, especially taking you into the playoffs. They've got games against the Giants. It's just looking better. I feel like it's going to be better.
See, for me, right now, you're not getting full value from Miles Sanders, and it's weird because he's been productive with his, games that he's appeared in 2020. I don't know. He's a tough. It's tough to figure out anything there in Philadelphia right now. But I'm not going to sell him right now. I mean, if you get, I don't know, if somebody offers you Aaron Jones or something crazy like that, then yeah, I'll take that. But I just don't want to part ways with Miles Sanders at the current moment.
I think the being dinged up and the sloppy play just, kind of pushes me over the edge of being, just feeling anything good about Miles Sanders going forward. It's just been so messy. And I think
miles apart on this argument. So
we are miles apart. That was good. Nicely done. My goodness. Let's get to a couple more questions, guys. Thanks for tuning in. If you haven't already, please hit subscribe, like. We really appreciate it across all platforms. If you didn't have a question, you think of one later, a trade question you have for us today, please send it to us on Twitter. You can find Derek at Dtater4, and you can find me on Twitter at Samantha R. Holt. So just let us know if you have any other trade questions. And if not, and you have a start sit question, please bring those tomorrow morning when the whole fantasy crew is together, fantasy focused. Follow us, hit the bell so you get notifications when we go on tomorrow morning at 7 a.m. Pacific, 10 a.m. Eastern. We'll get to this last one to sign us off from Nick Bastian saying Gino Bernard or Justin Jackson or Brandon Cooks at flex and a half-point PPR.
For me, it's Justin Jackson. And I thought that, kind of the points that I brought up earlier, the Jags defense has given up some very big performances on the ground, and Justin Jackson looked very good in the game for the Chargers prior to their bye week. So in particular, I think his 15 carries and of course 5 receptions in the passing game, 20 total touches. Against the Jaguars defense, if he has the same exact workload, or at least even one that's similar, then I'm all for that.
Yeah, I like Dustin Jackson a lot this week, too. It's a great matchup. I am high on Cooks this week as well, but I think that your floor is just a little bit higher, so I would agree.
You're not high on Bernard, who you're putting money on?
That's not the question. The question isn't Bernard versus McKinnon, which is, we know where I stand on that.
It's Bernard versus Jackson and Cooks. You're not that high on Bernard, and you're putting money on him?
I'd like Jackson a little bit more. I'm not that bullish. I have lines. Bernard is higher.
Yeah, well, the line is you're going to be saying like, hey, I owe you a hat and a baby outfit. So that's your line. That's going to be what we queue up next week.
I know. Shows you where I have these guys stacked. I've got Justin Jackson higher. I've got Brandon Cooks higher than Giovanni Bernard. And then I have Giovanni Bernard. And then I have McKinnon below that.
Thanks.
So this is layers of an onion.
I get it. Yeah. Ogres have layers. You get it. All right.
All right, guys, thanks so much for tuning in. Again, if you haven't already, please hit subscribe, like. We appreciate all of those. And thanks, guys, for tuning in. Join us next week. We will cover more trade value talks as we go forward to get you those wins this fantasy season. Have a wonderful Saturday, guys, and I'll talk to you tomorrow.